Hey, welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, Monday Mayhem, Episode 5, Sharknado 5, Global Swarming. Folks, full honesty here, I had to watch this movie in 30-minute increments because this movie is... I was wondering how they would get... I don't know, how they would get more insane than the last one. And boy, did they go insane. So before I get started, say hello to the chat. Vanya so far is the only one here. Thank you so much for tuning in, buddy. And I'm sorry, folks, for not being able to do last night's Infinity Saga stream. I had a bad trip, and I was just not able to do it. And apologies to the panel. I know that they were all ready for that and whatnot. It's just that I was unable to do that stream. It was really bad yesterday. So, yeah. Hey, Elena, good to see ya. And so, yeah. Also, tomorrow is my finale for mystery reviews. It has been guessed. I am doing training day with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. Boy, do I got some good trivia for that one, folks. So definitely stay tuned. Also, if you like my channel and you want to support my channel, take a look at all the different playlists. Check out my streams. I go live pretty consistently on Mondays, Tuesdays, and I'm on the Bar Room podcast on Tuesday night on Society Reviews channel. Wednesdays, during ones and twos with Mara, when we do ones and twos each month, and she comes on my channel on Thursdays to do the singles when we're doing the singles. September singles are going to be Dracula Untold and Daybreakers. We're on a vampire kick, so yeah, that's going to be two great discussions there. And next Sunday will be Infinity War. Again, I do apologize for everybody who was looking forward to that one. I just could not do it yesterday. I mean, even typing out stuff was a challenge and trying to go on to StreamYards when you are very tripped, and yeah, even trying to fix the time for that was a challenge. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this. So Sharknado 5 is a 2017 movie. Had an Indiana Jones themed title, so they pretty much begin it like Indiana Jones. It's like Raiders from the Lost Ark. Nova is pulling the Indy, and she's exploring a cave. And she sees these hieroglyphs on the cave. They're like, what do you need? I need Finn Shepard. Nova, the bartender, has come a long way from being a bartender. I mean, last time we saw Nova, folks, was the post-credit scene or the end scene just before the credits of Sharknado 4, where she rode the freaking Eiffel Tower from Paris to Canada, Niagara Falls. And I'm thinking to myself, that must have been one hell of a ride. How the heck she rode that sucker all the way without losing her grip once, beyond me. But anyway, we learned that Finn is in London with Little Gil and April, still a cyborg, by the way. And he's helping NATO because now the Sharknados have gone global. And there's a lot of problems. And so he's called by Nova to go to Stonehenge. And the rest of Clan Shepard is at, April and Gil are at MI6 headquarters. And there's a nice little Q scene where they're showing off different stuff, like a Sharknado helmet that you can put on that will protect you from the atmospheric pressures of any storm. And they put it on Little Gil, so that becomes a thing. And there's a pen rocket. Now, the Q guy is, oh my God, what is his name? He's one of those singer guys. I think it was like Clay Aiken or something. And he plays the Q guy in this, showing off all the gadgets and gizmos and whatnot. And it's a nice little bit. So then we are back over there into Stonehenge, where Nova's talking about or showing Finn the stuff or the hieroglyphs, and they see this item on the wall or this hieroglyph that looks like an item on a wall, and they call it the Harness of Dakawaka. Yeah, I laughed my ass off at that too. And apparently, I actually looked up Dakawaka. It is a shark god. So, yeah, apparently there was a shark god in real life. And so Sharknados have happened in the past. That's what these glyphs on the wall are saying. And they go into the Shark Temple. Now, there's Indiana Jones quotes in the Shark Temple where they literally find a skeletal body with a whip and fedora. So apparently Indiana Jones was checking out this Shark Temple in Stonehenge when he died. I mean, yeah, what a way to go out. And so none of them are going to wear the hat. Instead, they're getting ready to go up to find the harness, which is just like the idol from Indiana Jones 1, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so before they go, they toss the fedora forward to see if there's any more traps, and little sharks jumping out and grab the fedora. So it's like, sharks. Why did it have to be sharks? Which is a direct callback to why did it have to be snakes in Indiana Jones? So they managed to get over to it, and they use a megalodon tooth, which is hilarious, for a counterbalance of the harness of Dakawaka. And so they grab it. Obviously, the counterbalance isn't enough, so they have to run out. And there's this giant golden shark head that is kind of like serving the purpose of the boulder in the chase scene for Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's like, yeah, that works. And so Stonehenge starts flooding up as a Sharknado forms. And at this point, there's no logic anymore, folks. So there's a purple core to this new Sharknado, and they have to get the heck out of there. So, yeah, Good Morning Britain, kind of like Good Morning or the Today Show with everybody at, I think it's MSNBC or CBS, whatever one. Well, the ones in Britain is Good Morning Britain, and they call it a T10 Sharknado, which is different from our Fujita scale over here. So April helps Finn and Nova from crashing the copter when Finn and Nova were on their way back from Stonehenge. So she goes and uses her super strength to bring the chopper down before it can crash into the Tower of London on London Bridge. And so then London Bridge gets taken out by one of the Sharknados, and you hear little Finn go, London Bridge is falling down. I mean, it's like, I knew that was going to happen. Anytime there's a catastrophe in a movie in London, the bridge has to go down. So London Bridge is falling down. We then get a double-decker bus, and Nova's driving. And Bret Michaels just happens to be walking across the street when she hits him. And she's like, oh my God, I think I just killed Bret Michaels. And I'm thinking to myself, no way they didn't just bring him on there to die. So obviously he's still alive, and he's stuck to the front of the bus, and he's playing guitar while the bus is dodging sharks and stuff. And once they get to the end of the ride, well, Bret Michaels does end up getting killed. He gets eaten by a shark, so it's like, oh, damn. And it's like, wow. So then the Eye of London becomes a rolling wheel because of the Sharknados. Now, when I saw Finn and Nova looking at the wheel, or the Eye of London, the big Ferris wheel, and it's starting to roll down the place, they're like, deja vu. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, the first one, right? So then we also see Big Ben get taken out. Buckingham Palace Redcoats charge against Sharks because Finn rallies them. He's like, gotta save the Queen, right? Y'all here to save the Queen? Well, what are you waiting for? And so they all start running, shooting at the Sharks that are coming down and whatnot. It's just all fun games, folks. This movie is so freaking great. I love it. It sucks, but I love it. It's one of those ones that you can't help but love, even though it sucks. And unfortunately, Gil gets sucked up by the Sharknado, little Gil. But that helmet thing is on, so it can transmit his vitals and protect him from the storm at the same time. I'm sorry, but if a kid's getting but would that protect a kid from getting eaten by a shark inside of the Sharknado? Apparently so, because the kid never got eaten, which was kind of weird. So, yeah. After that, Gil grabs a shark and gets, or not Gil, but Finn grabs the shark that's going into Buckingham Palace and crashes down the street, or crashes down the stairs. And then the Queen, who was butt fucking ugly. I mean, Plastic Surgeons Anonymous did a hack job on that woman. And she apparently plays the Queen, and it's like, could have sworn the Queen was a lot older. Yeah, unless you are King Charles's wife, but in that case, yikes. I mean, that Queen is a no. So then we get the 22 minutes in, we finally get the opening credit crawl for Sharknado, and the Sharknado theme song, which is nice. So then we learn that Gil is alive in the Sharknado due to the tech helmet that he's wearing. And then we are hearing of a mention of a giant blimp that Dr. Angel drives. And it can possibly fight Sharknados. And so then we finally get to the NATO, NATO thing. And Nichelle Nichols, God bless this woman, is Uhura from Star Trek. Well, she plays Secretary General Starr. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. And so she's talking about Finn, and she's like, a man who has gone where no man has gone before. And I'm thinking to myself, good on you, girl. Good on you. Good on you, Nichelle. But she also treats Finn like very reverently. Like, he's like, you are our only hope. What do we do? It's kind of like that. And he's like, overseas, America is doing its, or we're doing our best to make America great again. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, MAGA, love it. And we're learning that the Sharknados are evolving, because we had one that turned into a fire oil, or an oil NATO, then a fire NATO, then a boulder NATO, then a nuke NATO. I mean, last movie was nuts, folks. But these ones are also starting to evolve. And then we see that the Prime Minister survived losing a leg earlier in the film. He was the one escorting the Gil family, or the Shepherd family around. And he actually lost a leg, and he's hobbling around, and he has a suitcase with some weird plan. And a woman that he really likes, or that really liked him, wanted to kiss him, but then a freaking shark lands on her, so killing her. But then he arrives there, and as we then get a NATO, because the Sharknado, or a Sharknado, arrives and totally rips up the NATO conference. Well, now the Prime Minister is dead because another one lands on it, and so the Gil family, or the Shepherd family, has to go to the blimp that's called the Hindenburg XP-3000. And the doctor who is driving this Hindenburg is none other than Geraldo Rivera. And I'm thinking to myself, What? I mean, seriously, Geraldo Rivera, it was the blimp owner and runner and all that stuff. And, well, he's also an asshole before he dies swiftly, thank God, because he's like, if it wasn't for you, Finn, none of this shit would be going on. And it's like, oh, shut up, dude. Just die already. Well, he very much does die. And the three escape from burning blimp in Switzerland somehow. So now they're trying to get Finn or get Gil out of the NATO. So April, who is a cyborg, puts a ski on the back of her body, so it's like this behind her, and she activates one of her jet boots back burner, which starts spinning her in a counterbalance against another tornado. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so it's an April NATO. And she ends up causing an avalanche. So they got to outrun an avalanche while listening to frickin' The Offspring. And so then they try going into a Sharknado by using sleds. And before that, or also some sharks are dropping into a Olympic rink in Switzerland, and one of the Olympic skaters happens to slice a shark, literally bisecting it like this way, laterally. And just by doing one of those nice little flourishes, and it's like, right. I couldn't tell you which of the Olympic skaters it was, but it was freaking nuts. And so then we are in Kansas with Matt Shepard calling, and he's just calling in to check on the family, and it turns out nothing's going on yet. So then they start to use dog sleds to chase the Sharknado. And they end up going into the Sharknado after they cut the dogs loose, even though that would never have worked. And they get sucked into this portal. So when they drop out of the portal, they're now in Australia all of a sudden. So it's like, right. Now we got Sharknados in Australia. So we then get the Today Show with Australia, or their version of like the Today Show, and April is swarmed by sharks in the ocean, and they get picked up after that. So she gets kind of like eaten or chewed up a little bit. So then these two engineering Aussie chicks make April less cyber, but also solar powered. And I'm thinking to myself, what else could go weird? So then we learn that Nova has started the Sharknado Sisterhood, which is basically a cult of Sharknado survivors. And we learn that Finn's cousin Gemini from the third movie is also part of the sisterhood. And I'm thinking to myself, this is fucking weird, man. So Nova and Finn end up getting into an argument because he's like, I don't want you endangering my family. And she's like, well, what about you, man? This is your responsibility to help save this world. And he's like, and what is your whole goal here? I love how he actually throws it right back at her. It's like, you didn't start this thing to save the world. You just want to kill as many sharks as you can because of what happened to your leg and because one killed your grandfather. So it's like, yeah. He throws it right back at her, and it's freaking great. So then another nuke NATO, because Gemini was on a tanker that's getting ready to move nuclear waste to a different facility. Well, unfortunately, some of the toxic waste gets dumped into the ocean and ends up, the Sharknado ends up sucking it all up. And instead of becoming another nuke NATO, it just becomes this homogeneous glob of sharks. And I'm thinking to myself, what else could go wrong? I mean, holy crap. So, yeah. Gil's Sharknado is heading toward the Sydney Opera House. And we learned that the Sydney Opera House can transform into a more aggressive-looking opera house. And I'm thinking that thing looks weird enough already. So we see that April also steals the shark artifact because she wants to help her son. She doesn't feel that Nova is able to do it. Tony Hawk works for the Shark Sisterhood cult. So it's like, right. And he helps fix the opera house because it's malfunctioning. And then they plan on bungee jumping into a Sharknado plan. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's going to work. And so then Finn and Nova apologize to each other. It's like, yeah, we were very hurtful. And then we get laser blasts against a Sharknado from the opera house. And when trying to get into the Sharknado to get their son doesn't work, they end up in Brazil. Well, we learn that there are more Sharknado cultists there. And one of them helps... excuse me. One of them helps Finn and Nova, and they're like, okay, we're going to help you. And there's this mystery G-Man guy. I don't know what he's all about because you see him and then then you see him a little later. And they go to meet this woman, Vega, who teaches them that the artifact that just got stolen needs to be put back into Stonehenge to stop the Sharknados. Well, Stonehenge is underwater, so they're nixed that plan. And we also learned that the artifact can create Sharknados. So, yeah, we then get this nice little car chase after the artifact gets stolen. And Christ the Redeemer ends up getting broken up by the Sharknado. And they're chasing this guy and whatnot. And so the guy's car ends up dying, and they manage to get the artifact back. And so Christ the Redeemer's hands are out like this, and their vehicle lands on Christ the Redeemer's hand as it throws or spins toward the vortex, throwing them into another vortex. And they end up in Rome with the Colosseum, and the shark eats the artifact and is then killed by Finn, like shortly after. And then they're at the Trevi Fountain where they make wishes. And then this woman shows up and brings them to the Pope. Folks, I'm sorry. When I see freaking Fabio as the Pope, and I'm thinking to myself, I cannot believe this is the Pope. Because he always used to do those, I cannot believe it's Nabata. And I'm thinking to myself, what? What? And so Fabio gives this chainsaw from hell to Finn. And he's going to go do some more shark slaying. And they end up there's a Sharknado, or the blob, that nuclear blob of sharks is heading into Japan. And then there's the Sharknado that was created in Rome. And somehow Finn is inside of this newly created Sharknado. So they're still trying to get to, or Gil, not Finn, but Gil. And so that doesn't work. And Gil, or Finn, is launched up into the Sharknados. And you see this cross blinking on this Pope chainsaw. So he pushes the button, and it's just a bunch of lasers shooting out and killing a bunch of sharks. And I'm thinking to myself, please kill me. I'm just thinking to myself, this is absolutely fucking nuts. And it's cool, but it's nuts, you know? So they drop into Tokyo, and just before saving Gil, I mean, they had Gil's hands, but then a shark fly or swooped in beneath or between them. So they then get dropped into Japan, and they see the shark blob in Japan. We see the Today Show with Kathy Lee and Hoda and Al Roker, and I could have sworn they died in the last one because they were showing that everybody was freaking dying. And Gil is somehow in the shark blob instead of the Sharknado that dropped him from Rome. So now he's in the shark blob. And I'm thinking to myself, huh? So the Sharknado Sisterhood, now this homogenous blob is like a shark or Sharkzilla. It's like going through Tokyo, just wreaking havoc and killing a bunch of people. And it actually is shaped like a big old shark, which is also kind of nuts. And I'm thinking to myself, how is this ever going to be topped? You know? So the Sharknado Sisterhood by Nova goes into a slice and dice mission where they jump out of a plane and start trying to get into the homogenous shark blob. And well, it doesn't, or it works, but Nova ends up getting seriously injured. And she almost had Gil, but it doesn't work. So she ends up dying. And then we also learn Gilbert Gottfried, who was in the last one and also killed by a cow from the Cownado. He's alive and he's in Africa. And you see how there's a Sharknado that sucks up the freaking gazelles and the lions. And he's like, the sharks or the lions are chasing after the gazelles and the sharks are chasing after the lions. It's a safari-nado. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, just stop. Please stop. But no, the U.S. is under siege by Sharknados, according to Al Roker. And New York isn't being touched this time by a Sharknado because of what happened in the second one. So it's like, New York is fine. Everywhere else is fucked. So I'm thinking to myself, well, glad I live in New York. And that's when everything starts going sideways. Matthew is dead. Claudia is dead. And pretty much everybody's dying because this is literally like the end of the world. And so Finn's family is all dead except for him and April, because Gil was sucked up in an explosion from the blob or from the shark blob, and now he's nowhere to be seen or heard from. He's feared dead. So it's like, oh damn, they went there. They killed a kid in the show. Wow. So now they try to use the Sharknado to go to Stonehenge, and they end up in Egypt, where there's shark god hieroglyphs in the Great Sphinx. So it's like, oh great. So they flick a lever, and all the freaking Sharknados around the world stop. And it turns out that it's just a small reprieve. So then they all start up again. And so April has to make a choice. Well, while this is happening, the Aussie news is dead. So is Good Morning Britain. They all get eaten by sharks. Al Roker's still alive, but batting 1,000 against sharks. And the world is ending. Finn uses this staff that was in there to part the flood of water that's coming toward him. And it's like, okay, Moses. And we then see that April overloads herself to stop the end of the world, or to stop it all from killing itself. It's just, it works. It's just too late. So now there's April's head, and it's like, oh, great. She's gone. I mean, you see her flicker a little bit, and then she goes offline. And so you then see Finn just walking around different scenes in the world, and he's kind of like Moses, like just a lone wanderer. His wife's head and a bag on his stick, and he's all hooded up. He's like, hello, is anybody out there? Am I the only one left? But then this lone Hummer rolls up, and it's Dolph Lundgren. And it turns out that Dolph Lundgren plays old Gil. Like the little kid that got sucked into Blobnado is now suddenly old. So he got sucked into time from that Blobnado or Shark Blob or whatever. And so he had to learn how to channel the vortexes into a time machine. So yes, Sharknados can be used like a time machine now, folks. And he's like, we're going to have to go back through time to stop these things. And I love this too. And it's like, this is just fucking nuts. So then we get the Back to the Future theme, and the Hummer's wheels fold in, and it's a fly out and then fly at the camera. And you see to be continued Shark-wise or Sharknado-wise with the Back to the Future style lettering. And that's it. No real thing after that. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? My mind is completely fried. I mean, I had a bad trip yesterday, but then I finished watching this movie today, and I'm thinking I must still be tripping. And it's like, fuck, dude, what the hell? How is Dolph Lundgren, like the 7-foot monster guy of a Dolph Lundgren, how is he the son of them when he was like 7 feet tall, and Gil and Finn and April are both like not even 6 feet. At least I don't think so. I mean, but anyway, and that's the end of this movie. And I'm thinking to myself, I am tripping, man. This is fucking nuts. And so, objectively speaking, this movie was fucking like a 2 to a like 3 or 4 out of 10. Great visuals and all. Great or very bad dialogue. This movie is not meant to be measured objectively, folks. And then so we then have the subjective, which, oh my God, the insanity puts it up there, folks. The insanity of this movie puts it up at like a freaking 7.5 out of 10. I like the Sharknado movies. They're fucking nuts. And so, moviegoer, if you like these dumbass movies, you'll like these because of the sheer hilarity and stupidity of them. So I'll put this movie at about an 8 out of 10 Sharknado-wise, because I did have to step away and watch this in 30-minute increments, so I stepped away twice to watch them. And it's like, oh, dear God, this is just nuts. So, yeah, that's going to be, excuse me, the 30-minute review. Thank you to Elena and Vanya for tuning in, and to anybody else who may tune in on the replay. Y'all have a wonderful night. Stay tuned for tomorrow afternoon. I will be doing the mystery review finale. So, yeah, make sure y'all stay tuned for that one. And then I'll see you on the Barroom Podcast tomorrow night at 9 on Society Reviews channel. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all are freaking amazing people. Make sure to chomp that like button. Anyway, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. Have a wonderful day, and always remember, stay humble.